Okay, good morning. Megillat Esther for the next 2 weeks. You might think it's a cop out because the next two parshiot are not that well. Tetzaveh and Kisisa is actually a real easy parsha to teach, but I'm not copying out from Tetzaveh. I'm just wanting to learn Megillat Esther and to get us into the mood. Okay, page 1252. We're going to learn the first chapter through the eyes of Rav Soloveitchik, of course. This is still a shir on the Rav's Torah. I had never, as you've heard before, I've never done this before until this year, really, till the past 2 years, really studied the Rav's thinking, and it's just resonates, I think, with all of us when we really spend time learning what he had to say. Okay, 1252. The Rav is fascinated by this opening chapter because it's the introduction to the whole story. Once you understand this story, this opening chapter, you'll understand Megillat Esther. So let's read the chapter, and then we'll see what the Rav has to say. It came to pass in the days of Achashverosh, the Achashverosh reigned from Hodu at Kush, from India to Ethiopia, if you will, over 127 provinces. That in those days, when King Achashverosh sat on his royal throne, which was in Shushan, the capital, he began throwing in the third year of his reign. He threw a feast. He threw a feast for whom? The first feast was for all his officials, all the aristocrats, the army, etc. That's what Pasuk Gimel says. So pay close attention to how many parties he's going to be throwing, by the way. Small little party, right? When he displayed, what did he do for these aristocrats, for all of these, the top echelon of society, the royals? What did he do? When he displayed the riches of this glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty, for how many days? 180-day party. Not bad, right? So when 180 is over, what does he do? He then invites everybody else, the regular people of Shushan. And how long do they have a party for? 7 days. Everybody else is invited for 7 days. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. Hello.
You want to see the sofa?
Okay. They were hanged. Please mute yourselves, or I'm going to mute everybody. Okay. Yes. Mute. Okay. There we go. There were hangings of white, fine cotton and blue wool, held with cords from fine linen and purple wool upon silver rods and marble pillars. The Psukim describe all of the riches that he showed, right? The couches of gold and silver were payments, unbelievable, beautiful items that were at the party. The drinks were served in golden goblets. No two goblets were alike. The royal wine in abundance according to the bounty of the king. And the drinking was according to the law without coercion, for so the king had ordered all of the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. You could go over to the bar. It was open full time, right? You could drink as much as you wanted, right? That was the decree of the king. Vashti, the queen, also made a feast for women in the royal house of the king Achashverosh. On the 7th day, so he was totally stone drunk. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, in other words, he was totally inebriated, he ordered Mechuman, Charvona, Biksa, Ba'avaksa, Zesar, B'chakas. These were his 7 chamberlains who attended the king Achashverosh. And what did he tell them? Lavias Vashti. Who did he send to get Vashti? He sent these underlings, right? Lavias Vashti, he sent that she should come with her wearing her crown, that she should come and she should show them her beauty. She refused. She refused to this message that she received from his chamberlains. And he got angry, and his anger burnt in him. The king then conferred with his experts who knew the times, and to all who knew the law and the judgments. And he said, we're given all the names of these people that he turned to, and he asked them for their opinion. He wanted to know, what should we do with Vashti, the Malka? She didn't listen to his command to come. So now what does Memuchan say? And Memuchan speaks up and he says, it is not only the king that has been violated, right? But also all the officials and all the people in the provinces of the king Achashverosh. It's going to become known that you sent for your wife and she didn't come. So this is going to destroy man's rule over the house, right? And this day, the princes of Persia and Media and Madai, who have heard of the queen's deed, will cite it to all of the king's officials, and there'll be much contempt and wrath. If the king listens to this, and so what does he say? If it pleases the king, let there go forth a royal edict from him, and let it be written into the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it not be revoked, that Vashti never again appear before the king Achashverosh. Let the king confer her royal estate upon another who is better than she. Then the king's decree, which we shall proclaim, shall be resounded throughout all the kingdom, great though it be. All the wives will show respect to their husbands, great and small alike. It set well with the king, and he did exactly what Memuchan suggested. And he sent letters, sent a decree into all the king's provinces, to each province in its own script, and each people in its own language, to the effect that every man should rule in his own home. And he spoke the speak the language of his own people. He sent this wonderful edict all over the country that he was ruling. Okay, that's the introduction. But if you paid close attention, you have to understand this chapter to understand what's going to now transpire. So let's take a look at what the Rav says. The Rav starts off with the first 3 words. Are we being told historic information? Oh, this was the period of Achashverosh. Is that what? Quite often a book will start with historic underpinnings, right? Is that what the Sefer, the Megillah is doing? And the Rav says definitely not. It is not interested in telling you history here. What it's interested in telling you is you want to understand this story. This story, in those 3 words, you understand it. Vayhi b'melech Achashverosh. You know what that means? Only in the ruler, only in the reign of an Achashverosh could this absurd story occur. Because it's an absurd story, as we're going to see in a few moments. It's all crucial to understand. It's Achashverosh who's at the source. And if you have to understand the whole story, it's Achashverosh. The Rav proves it. What are the next 2 words? It says, Vayi b'mei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh. What do you mean, hu Achashverosh? You just said Vayi b'mei Achashverosh. What are the next two words? Hu Achashverosh. If you want to understand this story, you have to understand the complex personality of Achashverosh. And there are two elements that the story is now going to tell us. Continues on. Who Achashverosh? You have to understand, who is this Achashverosh? We'll come back to that. And what else does it tell you in the first opening verse? This first opening verse gives you the introduction to everything, if you will. What is he? Hu Achashverosh, Hamolech Mehodu Akush Shava Ve'asim Umeya Medina. The Rav points out 2 points are being taught to you as an introduction. Number one, who is Achashverosh? He's a complicated and erratic human being that you are now going to be introduced to. You're going to see that this man, Chazal even says, we don't even know, nobody ever called him bright. No, he's not. He is not bright. He is either a total fool or he is a total child. He never grew up. He's just, who is he? So he's an erratic behavior. That's number one, you have to understand. Number two, what are you telling me that he is the king from India to Ethiopia for 127 provinces? Because he's driven for what? Power, correct. He's driven for power. And you have to understand that. He is totally focused on building his reign. That was exactly. That's the kind of personality he is. But there's no dummy. Right. What is he focused on? He's focused on achieving his goal. His goal is to control. It's in the present. It's not in he's still building this power base of 127 provinces. In order to achieve his expansive rulership perspective, he's become paranoid. If you want to understand the story, you have to understand paranoia. He's going to be always constantly looking over his shoulders. He was afraid somebody would interfere with his goal. What's his goal? To control 127 provinces. He was afraid somebody's going to interfere. He judged every move he made, thinking and worrying about who is going to come and try to topple him. This caused him enormous anxiety, enormous fear. And to understand what's happening here, you have to remember that. In Mehodu Akush, he's focused on building an empire, and he's worried that somebody's going to interfere. So he acts with paranoia, which is part of the story. And we know had he been sure of himself, he would have totally acted differently. Rav Soloveitchik knows. He would not have acted this way. Okay, so what does he do right away? He does Pasuk Gimel, jump to Pasuk Gimel. What does he do? In his third year, meaning he's slowly building his following, right? And he wants to gain this power over 127 provinces. What does he do? So Pasuk number 3, third year, Lamaho Asa Mishte L'cho Sarav Avadav. He throws a party for how long? 180 years. The book begins, 180 days, 100 years, right. The book begins with the depiction of who's invited first, aristocracy and the leadership of the country. And what do? They indulge in drinking. They become imbibed with, the people there become drunk. Literally, it's a drinking feast. That's what we're told. One might think, as Rav Soloveitchik notes, what does this have to do with the Jewish people? Why aren't we told this? This is a story about the Jewish people, Megillat Esther. What do we care about if he throws a party for the aristocracy? And the Rav concludes a very important rule. There are no neutral events that happen in the world anywhere that the Jew can afford to ignore. You have to constantly know what's going on in the world around you. They all have an impact upon you. They will. Lesson number 1 in this book. Learn it well. Everything that is happening, you might think, hey, that's happening in Denhamsville, right? Denhamsville is going to affect you some way. Don't be ignorant of what's happening in current events. You have to know. And then he goes on. So what kind of party does he throw? Outside of a drinking party, go down to Pasuk Zayin. Pashkos b'chlei zahav v'kelim mikelim shonim. and he throws a party. Beautiful, beautiful goblets, beautiful, right? Everything he's using is magnificent. The Megillah records in detail if all of the decorations, because they are not simple decorations. Mikelim, kelim, shonim. How does, by the way, the Baal Koreh read those words? Does anybody remember? Mikelim, kelim, shonim, eicha, eicha. He reads why is he? Because the tradition is that. The tradition is that kelim shonim are which kelim are they? They're from the Beit Hamikdash. They're not simple decorations. Our sages tell us kelim shonim are the kelim from the Beit Hamikdash that were belong to Belshazzar, and evidently Achashverosh has inherited them. It's been given to him. But you must wonder, as the Rav notes, why would these rulers be so interested in the sacred vessels of the Jew? They were pagans. Why would they be so interested in the sacred vessels of the Jew? What could they possibly mean to a people who believed in paganism as these people believed? The Jewish people were a small little people. We always were, we always will be. We're a small little people. Why is a man who is building a royal empire of 127 provinces concerned of kelim shonim, of the Jewish vessels that were sacred from our Beit HaMikdash? The answer is lesson number 2. Even these pagans were intrigued by the Jew. The world is intrigued by the Jew. Always has been, always will be. We might be a small little people, but we're never ignored. We might be hated, but we're never ignored. That's lesson number 2 in the book. Okay? Continues on. So kelim shonim is an important element that is being taught to you. And now he does this party for 180 days, and suddenly something happens. When does it happen? When does everything change in this chapter? When does everything change? We're told. Which day? Which day? The Navi tells you. What? Pasuk Yud. Bayom Hashvi'i, on the 7th day, Kitov Leiv Hamelach Bayayin, he has drunk quite a bit. When did he, by the way, stop for half a second? This is very important. When was he drinking? Did he drink did he get imbibed? Did he get drunk in the first party? There were how many parties so far? 2. Right. Well, there's a third because Vashti's throwing a party, right? But did he drink in the 180-day party? We're not told he drunk in the whole. He didn't lose it, but he didn't lose it. He didn't lose it. He was very careful. Keep that in mind for a few moments. In the back of your mind, was going to come to this. There were 2 different types of parties, right? There was the party for the aristocrats, and then the party for everyone else, for the regular citizen of Shushan. Every citizen of Shushan could come, correct? When does he get drunk? With the regular citizen. He doesn't get drunk with the aristocrats. Okay, keep that in mind. Now, Bayom Hashvi, why are we told? Pasuk Yud. Bayom Hashvi b'kitov leiv hamelach bayoyin. It's on the 7th day. And the Rav notes, again, is this history? No, the Tanakh is not just giving you history. Bayom Hashvi'i, why would the Megillah tell us the exact day? This is, the Rav argues, to emphasize the contrast between the Jews and the pagans. It's striking between the Jews and the pagans. In the Megillah, the 7th day is what? No, in the Megillah, what's the 7th day? Pasuk Yud, what's the 7th day? It's the culmination of the last party, correct? That's what it means. It's the culmination. It's the party reaches its pinnacle. And how do the party goers react at the pinnacle of their party? It's the ultimate. Bayom Hashvi. It's the last day. Boy, the drinking is going and it's flowing. What is the status, the state of affairs at that party? Total lack of human dignity. A total lack of human dignity. The Persians of the time that are attending this party lose all human dignity. It depicts a moment all decency ends. That's exactly by Yom HaShvi. Take a look. They're now going to, who's going to be invited now? Vashti, right? And she's going to be killed. She's going to be killed. She's going to be hung, right? There's,
I was
yeah,
gonna say,
well,
where do we see
you-
that they lost
here,
all dignity?
here, what are they doing? They're drinking. Take a look at the pasuk. They're just drinking. That's all they're doing. Who does he do? What does he do?
He orders his
Interesting.
underlings.
Okay, he orders his underlings to do what? Bring. Okay, we're going to see that in 2 seconds. So that in itself is a lack of dignity. Should have he, we're going to come to this, should have he gone to speak to his wife, or should have he sent underlings? I want her to come. What is the appropriate way to speak to a wife? It's not this way. There's,
This is a different culture.
oh, no. She's going to, you're going to read carefully. Stop. I'm going to let you read the Tanakh again. Read this story itself. I'm not teaching. Very good. And what does she do? What does she do? No. What does she do?
Refuses
Refuses what?
to come to the king's.
You're not
commandment.
reading.
She refuses to
Was
Read
keep
the
beneath her.
words.
Was
Read the
beneath her.
words.
The words of the mouth of the king.
He refuses to come.
to his order.
Fatima ein hamalka. Take a look at Pasuk Yud Beis. Fatima ein hamalka vashti lavo bidvar hamelech.
To obey the order.
What is she refusing?
To obey the order.
She's refusing the way he talks to her.
Lack of respect.
You want me to come and you're sending me chamberlains? You're sending me underlings to come and get me? You want me to attend this party? Come and speak to me. Why are you sending me? That's exactly what it says. She refused what? Lavo bidvar hamelech asher biyad hasarisim. Why are you telling me that what you already knew? You already knew that he sent. But in her eyes, what she refuses is what? Is the way she is being addressed. There's no dignity. There's no human dignity. There's certainly, as the Rav notes, there's no sense. You're right, it's a culture. The culture has no respect for women. None whatsoever. And Judaism was a revolution. And Judaism says that's not the way a woman is to be treated. That's not the way a wife is to be treated. This is a response. So let's go back again. By Yom HaShvi, why is it so important by Yom HaShvi? In the Megillah, that was the pinnacle of the party. For the Persians, it's a story of drink to your heart's content. There's no control. Well, we know what happens when wine enters like that. When wine enters like that, human dignity exits. It depicts a moment when all decency ends. Refinement ends on that day. For the Jew, however, by Yom HaShavi, what does it strike? Of course, Shabbat. Chazal tell us, go back to Devarim, Perek Tezayim, Pasuk Ches. What's by Yom HaShvi? It's referring to the 7th day of Yontif. What is Shavi'i called? Atzeret. Atzeret is a day of restraint, not a day of partying. It's a day completely dedicated to God. Yom HaShvi is a dedicated to God, not a day that just everything goes. You see, Yom HaShvi is a code. It's a code. It's not history. It's a code. It's the definite difference between the Jew and the non-Jew. Continue on, and the pasuk says, what happens here in pasuk Yud? Yom HaShvi, kitov leiv hamelech bayoyin. Oh, everybody is, when the king had grown merry with wine, there could be no starker contrast between the Jew in Persia and the Jew and the pagan in Persia at this time than this pasuk. We understand. We're not idiots. We understand that alcohol can have a good impact and could have a bad impact. It matters what you do with alcohol. Alcohol without control is going to do what? It's going to destroy the human being. It's going to destroy all decency and everything goes out the window. If you get totally drunk, totally strong, stone drunk. But it can stimulate as well a person and arouse noble emotions. The Jew understands this very well. The Gemara in Psachim, Kuf Zayin Amid Aleph 107a rules that how must we sanctify Shabbos? Al Hayayin. What? Al Hayayin. You do it every Shabbos. You make Kiddush. You take that alcohol, which if abused can destroy you, but if used correctly can do what? Can stimulate emotions properly, 100%. Wine is used to stimulate emotions in the service of God for the Jew. What does the Jew do, the Rav notes? On the Pesach night, he's drunk 4 cups of wine, right? What does he do at the 4th cup? The pinnacle. It's over. You're not allowed to drink after that, right? So you've drunk the 4th cup. What do? What do you say? You say Hallel. You don't say absurdities. You recite Hallel, not idle coarse talk. The Jew used wine for the purpose and one purpose only, to serve God in the most noble fashion possible. This pasuk is a contrast to the Jew and the non-Jew. The Jews' approach to life and the non-Jews' approach to life. The non-Jews, on the time of this story, wine, just let it roll. Kitov HaMelech. Let everybody drink whatever they want. And let them, the more the drunk, the merrier. And the Jews said, Payom Hashvi. We know how to use wine, but we use it in measure. We use it appropriately. That's what this pasuk is telling us.
Rabbi, I just have a question. Didn't Hashem punish the Jews because they were drinking from the goblets that were from the Beis HaMikdash and they
No, that's the Kelim Shanim. That's Medrash. That's Medrash. 100%. That's Medrash. It's not mentioned in the text itself. Continues on.
Was it actually on the Shabbat, the 7th day, or is that just?
No. Lav dafka. We're not told. Bayom Hashvi, the Rav is noting that you have to understand the author is alluding. Oh, these are codes, if you will. It's alluding their 7th day and our 7th day. How would we celebrate our 7th day? How did they celebrate their 7th day? I don't know if it was a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but it doesn't. But how did they celebrate their 7th day? Why are you being told the 7th day? Who cares? It doesn't add anything to the text. It could have said the last day of the party. It doesn't have to say by Yom HaShvi. No, it does have to say by Yom HaShvi because it's a code. It wants you to contrast. You're thinking what you would do on the 7th day and what they did on the 7th day. Continues on. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Lahavi es Vashti hamalka lifnei hamelech beketer malchut. That he sends the chamberlains to do what? To bring Vashti hamalka lifnei hamelech, before the king, the keter malchut, with wearing her crown. So the Rav notes that Vashti was not summoned to the party of the nobles. Interesting, there were 2 parties, which she was not summoned to. Which party? The 180 aristocratic, the nobles, the top echelon of the country, that she wasn't invited to. Whose party was she invited to? The regular. What did you say?
The B crowd.
The B crowd. It's worse than the B crowd, right? It's the riffraff. That's right. She shows why. Why did Achashverosh wait until this party? What do you think? Why doesn't he invite her to that party? Go back to the very first pasuk, by the way. What is his goal? Power. He's building an empire. So Chazal tell us a very interesting thing. Who is this Achashverosh? What do we know about him? He was not a general. He was not a general. He was a stable boy. He was a stable boy in Belshazzar's stables. He was at the bottom of the rung since society, if class society, and it was a class society, at the bottom of the rung. But how did he become king? He married, that's right, Vashti. Vashti was his key into the aristocracy. So tell me, what do you think his?
Get to marry her if he was a stable boy?
It's totally. We've seen this many times in
many
history,
times.
right? The aristocrats, sometimes they fell in love. I don't know why, I don't know how, I don't know. You're not told that. You're not told that. Oh, sure, happens all the time. Happens all the time. Oh, sure it did. Oh, please, always. It happens quite often that the aristocrats do not marry unnecessarily. It happened just now with the royals, you know. Even in ancient history, you have stories where the royals marry people because, quote unquote, whatever reason, she fell in love with him, whatever it was, she marries him. And he's the key. Chazal say, who is this Achashverosh? We knew nothing about him. So Chazal say he was worked in the stables of Nebuchadnezzar. I said Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar, and married Vashti, who was his entrance into the royalty. Therefore, what did he lack? He lacked class. He lacked manners. He was not taught. He was ill-mannered and uncouth. He hated the nobility because that is the regular response of a person who feels that he's, oh, how did I get here? It's not me. It's through my wife, right? Yeah, that's right. He hated the nobility because he wasn't really one of them, but he knew that he needed them. Remember what we learned at the very beginning of this year. He was interested in power and he was worried about everybody behind him. Somebody's going to come toppling him over. Who would he be most worried about? The aristocracy. They could topple him very, very quickly. So because of this, he honestly felt out of place during that 180-day party. That's correct. Exactly. He couldn't let his guard down during that 180-day party. Exactly. Because of this, he honestly felt out of place. He could not be himself. He couldn't relate to their fine table manners. That's not the way he was raised. But he had to play the game. So he plays the game. He did not know royal protocol, but he played the game because he was taught to, right? He was on guard during that 180-day party, and he would do nothing that might alienate the aristocracy because they would be the first ones to bring him down. There is certainly, and this makes a lot of sense now. Oh, he wasn't one of them. So what do you think they felt about him? But the queen loved him, so the queen married him. So they don't want him either. He's not one of us. They feel he's out of place. The king, she married beneath herself. That's correct. And they would love to topple him. He knows that, and they know that. It was only during. Oh, let's see. Okay. And he's very smart. He doesn't do it on his own. He gets advisors. He gets advisors. Nebuchadnezzar's dead. Sure. Nebuchadnezzar's dead. Yes. He was Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was his predecessor. Yeah. Okay, let's continue on. It was only during the 1-week feast where the mob had come to party. Now he feels at home. During this feast, he lets his guard down and the animal instincts take over, right? They surface. Being among his own, he now, the Rav notes, he felt that he had an opportunity to be himself, right? To do something obnoxious. And yet he would win their sympathy, because how does the mob feel about Vashti? How does the mob feel about the aristocracy? They feel that, wow, they're more important than us. And now you got a drunken mob. So what do they really think? Everything's coming out, right? The Gemara says, wine enters and the secrets come out, right? Everything comes out. They despise the royal class. They're not happy with the royal class. The mobs he knew would permit him humiliating aristocracy. He can do it with them, which he cannot do during the 180-day party. It was on the 7th day, the last day of his party, that he felt free to act. He casts off all restrictions, right? All restrictive measures of decency and modesty. Now he's among his own and he can act himself. That's exactly what you're being told here. Continues on. Pasuk Yud base, we've already looked at this. She refused. The pasuk clearly tells us what she refuses. She refuses to come because of the way she was spoken to. Now, by the way, the Medrash says, also reading this pasuk, what did he go back to the pasuk before? So the Medrash says that he's totally drunk, so he sends his messengers to her to come totally stark naked, just wear the keter malchut. That's what the Medrash says. The Rav doesn't entertain that Medrash in his comments. He doesn't think that that's what she's refusing, but that's what the Medrash says. The Rav is carefully reading here that she refuses because of the way she's being spoken to. And she knows she's his ticket to the royalty. She darn well knows. Who do you think you're talking to? That's what she's thinking. Excuse me? You get over here. You want me to come. And you bring me and you hold my hand and we'll march in together. What, you want me to march in but at your demand, and you're sending me as if I'm a second-class citizen? I'm the queen. Well, how are you treating me? The Rav argues that Vashti did not resent the request per se. She didn't resent. She would have come to the party. What she requests is the way she's being addressed. After all, she was the queen. Listen to the words of the Rav, and I quote him. Achashverosh did not grasp the meaning of human dignity in general and the dignity of the woman in particular. He had no idea, certainly from where he came from, human dignity in general, and in particular, the dignity of the woman. And this is what she gets so upset. Fatima Ain. What is Fatima Ain? That's the most operative word in this pasuk. Your pasuk should base Fatima Ain. What does Fatima Ain mean? She refused. She did. It's a strong word. Fatima Ain hamalka. She refused. She says, "I'm not doing it." But what does she refuse? Bidvar hamelach asher biyad hasarisim. The way she's being addressed, she gets very, very, very upset.
Rabbi,
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Since she's from aristocracy, didn't some of the aristocracy know that Achashverosh married into it? Didn't they support her? Some of them, how did they feel that she was hung?
You're not told. The text doesn't tell. You're dealing with midrashim. That's wonderful, but the text, we're dealing with the text. Okay, we're trying to literally look at the text and see what we can have, what we can learn straight from the text. I'm sorry. Oh, you mean after the 180 day? Yeah, they're not present at the. It wouldn't be appropriate for them. First of all, it'd be dangerous for them. They're not going to, right? And second of all, this is beneath their dignity to be at this party. 100%. So continue on now. Jump to pasuk Chof. So what happens? What happens? Okay, Venishma. So she refuses, and then he's all upset. He's totally inebriated. So what does he turn to? He turns to his advisors. He says, "What should we do?" And they suggest, "That's it. That's it with her, right?" So Venishma pitkam hamelach asher yaseh b'chol malchut ki rabahi b'chol anashim yinu yikar lebalehan lemigadol v'ad katan. And now they're going to send out an edict. She's not only slighted you, but she slighted every man in the kingdom, right? And then when the king decreed, he shall proclaim, and it shall be resounded throughout all of his kingdom, great though it be, all the wives will show respect to their husbands, great and small alike. And the Rav asks a very important question. Why in the world do we need to know about this edict? What if you were writing this story? What do you need to know? What information do you need to know? That she got killed. She needs to be replaced.
Say
It's-
that.
it-
It says
you
he
have-
would never see him again.
Those are codes. That's the way you have
Yeah.
to read the text.
Yeah.
And you know it because
You know, she's not there, but it could be.
After-
that
oh,
she went away or demoted or
Well,
something.
she's out of the picture.
She's out of the
She's out of the picture. She's out of the picture. Yeah.
It talks about, this took place in the 3rd year of his reign.
The party. The party.
Oh,
He throws a party in the 3rd year of his reign. Why is he throwing a party?
well, obviously.
Go back to the first pasuk. Go back to the first pasuk. He's solidifying what?
His-
Because he has one goal in mind, which is what? Power. He wants to control Mehodu va'adkush. So he's building a strategy. What is his strategy? His strategy is I have to get everybody on my side. Who do I have to get on my side? Well, I have 2 elements. I have to get the aristocracy and I have to get the mob.
But why does it say the 3rd year of his reign? Because it
Which
sounds like.
He's slowly but surely gaining control. He can't do this right away. You have to have time to develop a certain member. And this would fit in beautifully with how Chazal understand he was not born into aristocracy. So slowly but surely he has to build it up, right? It's not, you can't do that right away. If you were born in aristocracy, you can do it right away. Your first year, King Charles can do whatever he wants right now. He has a lot of, right? He's been in royalty all his life. But if he wasn't royalty all of his life, he slowly but surely takes one step after another.
3 years prior, he was a stable boy.
No. He's been, okay. 3 years after he's been anointed king. Malchuto, right. For 3 years, he gets married to Vashti. And he becomes the king. He becomes the king via his marriage. Okay. 3 years after that marriage, after he has been crowned king, and they had the whole, what's that called? The coronation. Thank you. They had the whole coronation. 3 years after, what's he doing? He's starting to throw parties. Okay. And he's slowly but surely developing his control of the country and getting support. What does he want? Not even so much getting support, but weeding out any objections. That's what he wants to do. He wants to avoid any objections to what his plans are. And what is his plan? Mehodu va'adkush. You've said it over and over. It's a power grab. 100%. It's a power grab. Okay. Now, so the Rav asks a very simple question on this pasuk, and we're told all of the details of his decree, and he sends it out to the world, and everybody reads it. What decree was it? That all women must respect their husbands, right? Well, the only thing that we have to have been told from the story point is she's out of the picture and she needs to be replaced. That's all we need for this story, because that's the next chapter. Esther is going to be appointed queen. What are you telling me? Why are you telling me that he sends? Well, no, why are you telling me this information? The Chol Hanashim Yitnu Yakar Alehem. All women will respect their men. Think about it for 2 seconds. I want to ask you a simple question. Rabbi Soloveitchik notes it right away. The Chol Hanashim Yitnu Yakar, right? The Chol Hanashim, what are the words? The Chol Hanashim Yitnu Yakar Alehem Lemigadol V'ad Katan. Just translate that for me. What was the edict? There was an edict sent with his stamp on it. It said the what? What? Say it in your own words. What was the edict? That all women are going to respect all men. Huh? Is that an edict? That's absurd. That's crazy. How do you guarantee that a woman is going to be respected? Where does that happen? In the intimacy of relationships? How can I decree? Is there any legislation in the world that can decree that all women are going to respect men? Remember, hey, listen, there can be public displays of it, but that's not what the edict says. What does the edict say? That all men will be respected by their wives, no matter in your house, Were you going to have police go into every home and see?
Edict in Islam.
What?
Edict in Islam.
It's an edict. Yeah, but it's an absurd edict. It's an exactly. Can you decree an edict? What's going on in a private home? No, you can't. And because it's impossible to what? To police. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Great, but that's not what the edict says. But that's not what the edict says. What does the edict say?
It's requiring women in private.
That you can't police. It's an absurd edict. You can only declare, you can only legislate that which you can police. You don't legislate that which you can't police. It's impossible to enforce. And therefore, the Rav notes, hey, what's going on here? It's a crucial element to the whole story because it is absurd, because it makes no sense for a king to write such an edict. If you can't legislate anything that you can't control. It is an absurdity of a king. And that's exactly what Chazal understood was happening here. It was God wanted the people to think of Ahasuerus with contempt. Did our king really send this as the edict? Is he serious? Is he for real? That when you received this edict, you laughed. You laughed. You said, this is the king. Give me two seconds and then we'll let everybody comment. And thereby make him lose all credibility in their eyes. That's why this is crucial. Remember, the Rav asks a very simple question. Why are we being told that he legislated this legislation? We just, from a story standpoint, right? You could have saved a number of psukim and you should have said, she's out of the picture. She needs to be replaced. Let's continue, right? But that's not what it does. It goes out of its way to delineate you. Then when the king decreed, which he shall proclaim shall be resounded throughout the kingdom, great though it be, all the wives, etc. Huh? Why are you being told that? Because you're seeing it through the eyes of the citizens. When they receive this edict, they receive it, right? Everybody gets it. And it's read in the town square. This is the edict. You know what they do? They go home and they burst into laughter. They say, he's going to tell us how to run our private lives? Who's going to ever know? No, nobody's going to ever know how people act. This is exactly what the Gemara understood when it said in Yud Beis Amid Beis 12b in Masechtas Megillah. Listen to the Gemara. Rava said, this is the words of the Gemara, were it not for the first letters, this is the first of the letters meaning edicts, were it not for the first letters that Ahasuerus wrote, listen to the words of the Gemara, were it not for the first letters, not one survivor would have been left among the Jewish people. The Gemara is a wild statement. Rava says, without this edict, not one Jew would have survived. Rashi comments, listen to Rashi, for the people would have hastened to kill the people, the Persians, would have hastened to kill them at the command of the king in the second letters, because the second letter is the letter from that Haman inspires. What does Haman inspire? That all Jews will be killed on the 13th, the 14th, and would not have waited until the appointed day. Let me read again the Rashi. For the people would have hastened to kill the Jews at the command of the king in the second letters and would not have waited until the appointed day. They would have been delighted to kill the Jews. What stopped them? The first letter. The second letter, now you have to know something happens. You have to know the story. But what happens when he sends out the letter, the second letter from Haman? Do they immediately start wiping out Jews?
There was a date.
There was a date.
What was the date?
13 months later.
13 months later, they acted on it.
But that was the date.
The 13 months later, 13 months later, that's what Rashi is saying, exactly what Rashi is saying. If they were told that they could kill the Jews, they would have killed the Jews right away. That's exactly what Rashi says. They wouldn't have waited. You want us to kill the Jews? We'll kill the Jews right now. we'll jump to the occasion. Wow, if you want us to kill him, why should we wait? Why did they wait? So why did they wait? Well, this is what happened. It's clear what happened. They got the first edict, and now you understand the Gemara. The first edict, and what did they do? They burst in laughter. This is an absurd edict. Is our king, does he have all his marbles? You're living in a province somewhere, and you get this edict, and you go, this is absurd. What kind of an edict is this? Is your first letter that you've received from your king. And what is it? Absurdity. It makes no sense. How are you legislating such a crazy private relationships between husband and wife, between men and women? How are you doing this? So you're scratching your head and you're saying to yourself, what? What are you saying? Is he for real? Is he crazy? Is this the guy that's ruling in Shushan? Is this the guy now remember, this is not a democracy, so you can't vote him out of power, right? But what are you worried about? Oh my God, the future of our country is in his hands? A crackpot that's writing these, and this is your first communication. Remember what happened. It takes 3 years until he throws the party. Now, after the party, he's finally communicating with all of his provinces, right? People living all over the area, far from Shushan. And they're getting their first taste of this guy. And what are they doing? They're scratching their heads and they're going, this can't be for real. That's crucial to the story because we've planted what have we planted? Doubt in their heads. Is this for real? And that's why, go back to the Gemara. The Gemara says, Rava said, if were it not for that first letter, not one survivor would have been left among the Jewish people. Esther and Mordechai wouldn't have been able to save anyone because the people were given the right to do what? To kill us. And they would have killed us. Sure, they would have. They would have jumped to the occasion. But they wait. How long do they wait? For 13 months before they touch a Jew because they're afraid. What are they afraid? Maybe even this edict might not be the second letter that comes. You go, whoa, is this really for true? Is this really true also? Maybe this is similar to the first letter. Maybe this guy is and then if we do kill a Jew, and maybe it wasn't really commanded to do because it was an absurd also act, and we do it, we're going to be held responsible, and we're not going to take that responsibility. We got to wait to see what? How this guy really acts, how it all works out. We're going to have to give, time is going to buy us that ability to figure out where this Ahasuerus stands, what kind of human being he is. And that's why this letter is so important to the story, because it gives us their realization that they got a crackpot and they have a possibility. They don't know him. They might have a crackpot running the country. And if they have a crackpot running the country, you don't listen to necessarily every edict that he sends. You wait. You see, time is going to buy us perspective. Got it? And that's why the Rav says it's so important to know. He was asking, well, why do we have this it's seemingly superfluous information? This superfluous information is not superfluous at all. It is crucial to the storyline, isn't it? Because now they're going to try to figure out who's running the country. So let's go back and see what information we have, because then we'll go on next week to the next parak. But this is a brilliant reading of the first chapter. It gives you everything you need. I've read Megillat Esther for a number of years, but totally differently than the Rav just did it for me. The Rav looked at this first chapter and says, you want to understand chapters 2 through 10? You got to understand chapter 1, because it's going to set the tone. It's going to give you the total introduction. So what did it give us? It, number 1, told us, not history. It told us, you want to understand the story? What do you have to understand? Ahasuerus. How does he tick? Now we're seeing how he ticks, right? What do we learn about Ahasuerus? Number 1, he wasn't born in aristocracy. So his key to aristocracy was his wife. That changes everything. He's paranoid because of that. He's not, what's the word? He's not secure in his own skin, right? He's not secure in his own skin. He's worried somebody's going to topple him. Okay, so what does he do? Number one, it's Achashverosh, we have to understand. Number two, he has a Putin complex, right? He wants to control the world, and he's going to try to control the world of his time. Mehoduvad Kush, from India to Ethiopia, that's a big swatch of land. He wants to control it. But to do that, he slowly has to build his supports, and he has to weed out anybody that's going to stop him. So what does he do? Ladies, what does he do? He throws parties. Which party first? 180-day party. Who's invited to that? It's very class-minded, isn't it? Aristocracy. Well, does he feel comfortable with aristocracy? No, because he's not one of them. And he knows he's not one of them. But that's why the Rav asks, why does he insist on bringing Vashti to the second party, to the 7-day party of the mob? Because he would never have done that in the first party, because he's not himself. He knows, whoa, he might get his head chopped if he would have done that at the first party. So he's very careful. He knows what he's doing, right? He's paranoid. But with the mob, he feels at home. And what happens at the mob? He gets drunk. He does not get drunk in the first party. He lets his guard down in the second party because they're one of him. He's one of them. And everybody together hates the aristocracy. He hates the aristocracy. He hates the royals, and they hate the royals. Oh, because we're not one of them. And then he does what? He does what? He sends, not he himself goes and asks. He sends, and she takes umbrage to the way she's being invited. Well, how can you do that to me? Come and talk to me. Bring me in. Escort me into the party as I deserve. I don't deserve that I should march in because at your command via a messengers. And then he realizes she is totally drunk. So he realizes what happens. She is violating him. So he turns to whom? Again, he's very smart. He turns to whom? Advisors, so he can blame someone else, not himself, and which is he's going to do, right? Which he's going to do. Okay, and he turns to advisors, and his advisors suggest this absurd edict. That's crucial to the story. The Rav asks, why should you tell me? No, you're telling me because what is it doing by sending this absurd legislation? It's placing a question in the mind of the citizens. Who is running our government in Shushan? Is he for real? And that is what's important, because what will happen? They will hold off because they would have cast. The Gemara says, if they were given the green light to kill, they would have waited 13 months, even though the edict says kill them on 30. They would have waited 13 months. The Nazis didn't wait in communities. They didn't matter. They killed. As soon as they walked, they had the green light to kill. Go, kill, whoever, sure, be my guest. They would have done that, and Esther and Mordechai wouldn't have saved one Jew. It's a brilliant insight. They're going to wait to see, is this guy for real? And that's what's going to happen, and that's how the story is going to unfold. That's why you need this first chapter as your introduction to the whole story. That's how the Rav reads it. I think it's precious. Any questions? You had a comment?
I was just going to comment that pretty much that was what happened in that world. So I don't really get why he sends out this edict that was very much the midnight. And even like you say, but not in the privacy. Today we hear that even in the privacy home, if a husband decides she didn't listen to me, she says.
Yeah.
Fine, but how can you? That's a very good. The important word is enforcement. That is if the husband decides to do that. The husband has to turn his wife in. Then sure, fine, we'll go right ahead. But how can you enforce it on a regular basis? You can't enforce this on a regular basis. It's an absurd statement. you legislate that women are going to show kavod to men? Huh? What? When? How? No, it's not. Go, let's take Iran, a good example. Have, one second, even Afghanistan. Does every man with every woman act like that?
Of course not.
Of course, what did the edict say? What did the edict say? Thank you. You have to read the edict. You've received this edict and you have a good relationship. And you're saying, listen, all relationships have its up and downs. We get that. And you're going to have moments where it's high. We all know that. What? This edict says anytime they're not allowed to. You're scratching your head and you're going, is this what my government is doing? Is this what my government is worried about? Right? That's what you're worried about. You're saying that. By the way, in Iran, it's really because the women are being told that they have to cover themselves and they have to do this and they have to do that. They don't want to wear the hijabs. Is that what it's called? They don't want to wear it. Many of them.
Love it.
Anyhow, it's a good example, but you can't legislate that kind of thing.
I'm just thinking that the absurdity is already doing this, so
What?
to me, the absurdity is they're already doing this.
Who's the they? Some of them are. Some of them are. No, what is the legislation? You receive this and you have a good relationship. What do you say to yourself? This is what's on their mind. This is what he's writing. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. You can't legislate this kind of law no matter when you live. Not at all. I get why it's done, but not at all. Of course, it's a cultural, but this is not the kind of legislation. Remember, the Gemara is 2,000 years ago, and the Gemara is commenting about that culture. And the Gemara is saying, without this letter, all the Jews would have been. Explain to me what the Gemara means.
Oh, well, the Gemara says many things.
But that-
But it's just because very different,
No, of course,
Okay, all right.
of course. But you can't legislate, you can't enforce this kind of thing. And that's why the people are scratching their head and they're going, this is what our king is saying to us. And they're wondering, what kind of king do we have? And that's important. It's important to the story because no, but and that's why they're placing question marks in the people's heads about whom? The man in control. And that you have to understand is important to the rest of the story.
I have a
That's all
question.
I'm saying.
I have a question. How is it that the advisors let this edict go through? Don't they check with the king?
He's still the king, and that they're the ones who suggested.
Didn't they view it and give him some advice and saying, maybe this is not great?
It's crazy advice. Yeah, thank you.
And so
That's the craziness of who's running the country. That's correct.
So
You got
the
a
advisors
crazy,
also,
you got a crazy control. Okay, we'll continue next week.
Thank you, Rabbi. Very good. It was excellent.
Okay, have a lovely day.